All right, so welcome to today's topic, which is developing your self-belief. It's an important topic. This is also something that it was a Buffini podcast that I kind of got the inspiration for this training. So again, if you want to get into more with Brian Buffini, he's a great trainer, and I can definitely lead you to where most of this content is coming from. So the definition of belief, it's a state of mind in which you trust or state of mind in which you trust or confidence is placed in some person or something. So it's a state of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in someone or something. So that's the definition of belief. Consequences of low self-belief. So today's topic is all about self-belief and whatnot. So we have to kind of tackle what the consequences are if you don't have it or if you have very low one. So poor relationships, poor job performance, poor choices, poor health. These are all consequences of low self-belief. And the quote that kind of came out of it was, self-esteem is like driving, or low self-esteem is like driving through life with your handbrake on. So if you ever kind of felt like you're doing all the right things and you're just you're going through the motions, but it seems like it's going slow and you're just not quite getting to that top speed. That's kind of what it feels like when you kind of have so low self-esteem, low self-belief. Identifying the low self-esteem. So some of the traits that you can see in someone that has low self-esteem is they're envious, needing to talk badly of others. So if you come across those people that are just always picking out the negative traits of something or someone, they generally have some low self-esteem going on. They're hypercritical of everything, arrogant or boasting. So this is a big sign that you see a lot in the sales industry. If someone's really promoting themselves or their sales records or whatever in like an obnoxious way, and they're really kind of, touting themselves, they're generally they have some low self-esteem and they've got some things that they need to work on in that regards for them to get to that next level. Always trying too hard. So these are some of the people who just don't think they're good enough. So they think that they have to match it with effort. They generally have low self-esteem as well. The twin of low self-esteem is insecurity, and confidence is generally within ourselves. It's silent, and the insecurities are loud. So we tend to listen to our insecurities over our confidence points, and because it's just what's kind of yelling at us, throughout the day or throughout all of our situations. So that's some of the identifiers. Some things to help overcome that. This is a great quote that Brian Buffini said. Just being myself is good enough to be great. So we're going to get into a lot of different things throughout this presentation that is kind of going to make that quote come to life. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. But the more comfortable that you become with who you are as a person, you're going to begin to attract those people who are going to help lift you up and get you onto the road that you want to be on. So you're going to surround yourself with the positive people who are going to be in your corner and going to continue to build you up instead of break you down and help you get you on that road and keep you on that road to being self-confident. It's really important to surround yourself with people that are going to help. All right, who are you listening to? What are you listening to? So as we said, the insecurities are loud. Confidences are silent. You've got to really find that little voice that's kind of trying to peek through over all the insecurities and all the things that we have going on in our lives and all the negative kind of feedback we might be getting or interpreting or whatnot. You've got to find that confident voice that's within you, and that's what you should be listening to more and more, other than these insecurities. And we're going to get into what kind of leads into an insecurity in a second. And also, you don't want to make decisions on fear. So what does that mean? So fear, do you have a fear of cold calling, door knocking, asking for the sale? Believe it or not, a lot of salespeople have a fear of just asking for the sale, asking for that referral. So when you're done with a client and you just did a bang up job, they're super happy with you, everything went as perfect as it can possibly go, but yet you're still hesitant to ask for that referral. Why? Asking for a testimonial, same reason. You just killed it for that client. Everything went well, but yet you're still hesitant to ask them for that testimonial. Why is that? Well, a lot of that is because you still have that fear of rejection or fear of negative feedback. What if I really didn't kill it for them? What if they aren't really happy with what I provided them? So you kind of have that fear of like, oh, I think this is great, so I want to continue on with that positive thought. I don't want to get any negative feedback. Well, now you're making a decision based off of your fear of rejection to not go ahead and get that referral or get that positive testimonial. So those are some things to think about, how you can kind of incorporate this into the real estate career that you have. What are you listening to? What are the biggest factors? And then are you making the decisions you're making on whether to do or not do something based off of fear? So that's what you kind of want to get over in this industry. What do you believe about yourself? So do you have any false beliefs? And we're going to get into, in the next slide, the understanding of differences between competing and comparing. So competing and comparing are two very different things, and they can mean two very different things for your business. What beliefs have you bought into? So this is a good one. Has anyone, think back to your entire life, whether you're in sports, whether you're academics, whether it could have been anything. Have you had someone ever tell you that you're not good enough? Have you ever had someone tell you that you can't do a certain task or job for whatever reason? And have you brought that through your entire life? So the example that Buffini used was when he was a young kid, he went to a Catholic school, and his teacher told him that he wasn't creative because his handwriting wasn't good enough. So that was their tell, I guess, then, is if your handwriting was bad, you're not a creative person. So he spent the next 2 or 3 decades going through life and, building his businesses and whatever, and developing a creative department, and basically was, telling people, hey, I'm not creative. You have to do this. This is your job. You're my creative person. That's just not me. And then he got to represent a multi-million-dollar listing, and the listing was on the market for about 7 years. He did a really good marketing strategy, and he got the whole house sold in I think it was 160 days or 120 days, something like that. And he got it for pretty much asking price. And the multimillionaire looked at him and he said, "You're the most creative person I've ever met, because your job was to get a difficult situation and find the solution for it." And he's like, "You did that in the most creative way possible." So that just shattered his negative thought of what his one teacher had told him 25 years prior. So that's kind of the example we're talking about there. Is, has anyone ever instilled in you a negative belief that you've kind of carried with you throughout the years and inhibited you from actually moving forward and doing certain things? So that was kind of a cool aha moment for me that I looked at. And how do you know the difference between untrue and true feedback? So the true feedback is going to resonate with you at a deep level. So if someone tells you something and you like, "Oh yeah, that's absolutely true," and you really feel it at your core that what they're saying is true, generally that's true feedback. Also, if a big number of people tell you over time, "This is what's going on, this is the feedback we have," and it's all very similar, that generally is a good indicator that it's true feedback. And at some point you're going to have to look at it and say, "Okay, yeah, I've heard this several times throughout my life, or over the last several months, or whatever." And so there must be parts of it that are true. I got to take a deeper look at it and maybe make some changes. And also take the time to think. So not everyone's going to give you positive feedback. Not everyone's going to give you great feedback. Not everyone's going to give you high praises. So take time to think about the feedback, whether positive or negative. Don't just brush it off and say, "No, no way, that's not true. No, I can't." Take time to actually think about it. Evaluate it within yourself. Say, is this something that could be possible? Is this something that I need to think about? Is there some sort of change that I might need to make? And kind of evaluate, the severity of what it's meaning and what it is impacting in your life. A couple of good, quotes or phrases. you can't go back to change the start, but you can start today to change the ending. So, that is kind of self-explanatory. So it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. You can always start fresh today to change the outcome of what you want. And you can put that on the grand scheme of things. You can put that in an individual project. You can do whatever you want, just a recent sale that you have going on, whatever it is. When you receive feedback, you are actually in a healthy place. So positive, negative, it doesn't matter. You're setting yourself up for people to be able to give you feedback. That means you're actually in a good place, and you've set yourself as having the ability to receive that feedback and having people have the confidence to give you that feedback. So that's you're actually in a good place if you're just getting feedback. And sometimes people are going to give you their fears. So they're going to impose their fears on you. An example of that is I've had a lot, being a young business owner, I've had a lot of people tell me, this isn't a good idea, or you shouldn't be going into business. Like, you don't have the experience, you're just not there yet. Like, you should wait. I've had that, I've owned my own business now since I think it was 27 or 28. So I've dealt with that for my entire career with, anything that we've done throughout the businesses. Oh, that's too risky, whatever. And when I've actually dug deeper with some of these people, and I was just thinking back on the example, most of the people that I have, had that conversation with or had given me that feedback, they've actually come out and said, I wish I was able to do that when I was your age. I had a similar opportunity, and I decided to take, the job that was a little more stable. And you know what? I wish going back on it now, I really wish that, I had taken that chance and I had done that business, or I had, taken that opportunity. And so when I looked at it, going back to that first slide, that's envy. They were envious of the fact that I didn't have the fear to go out and try something and have the fear of failure. So, when you really kind of look at all that, the data of those people who, they just had the fear in themselves. So they were transferring that off because that's what they knew. And it wasn't intentional. It's not, I don't take offense to it, but it was something that they wanted to do that they didn't take the chance to do when they were younger. And that was kind of how that worked out. So, I've had several of those, experiences. So that's just an example of when someone's trying to transfer that fear onto you. And it's their way of trying to protect you. But at the same point, it's them internally saying, oh, okay, I wish I took this opportunity. Overcoming some of these negative beliefs. So as we said, just being myself is good enough to be great. That's Brian Buffini. And the more comfortable you become with who you are, that's going to give you the confidence and the path to self-confidence. All right, so the difference between comparing and contrasting. So what's comparing? Comparing is, one of the reasons we struggle with our insecurities is because we're comparing our behind the scenes preparation with people's highlight reel. And a great example of this is social media. So social media, there's not too many people out there posting pictures of them on their worst days or their worst moments. They're out there posting pictures of hang gliding and all these great experiences that they're having. And it leaves us sitting behind our computer saying, oh, I want that. I want to do that. They've got a great life. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much fun they're having. Well, that's their final product. That's what they're wanting you to see, but they're not showing you the struggles that they're having on day-to-day life. Another great example is women's fashion. How many times have we heard this in our culture? You're in a magazine, you're looking through it and you're like, oh, that woman's gorgeous, whatever, that, they're well put together, they're whatever. And then you see them in the street and you're like, oh, that doesn't look anything like their picture. Well, and how often do you see women trying to measure up to that person in the picture? So those are the things that, you're going through life, you're looking at the final product, but where our insecurities want us to be that person on that magazine cover or that person that's in that social media setting, but really that's their highlight reel. And we're not seeing the struggles that are going on behind the scenes that those people are facing. So that's comparing. It's focusing on what you are not and not what you are. So Teddy Roosevelt, as you can see, comparison is the thief of joy. So when you're comparing, you're kind of robbing yourself of joy. Now we get over to competition. So competition definition is to bring the best out of. So you want to bring the best out of yourself. You want to bring your best out of your situation, whatever you're in competition with. You're wanting to put yourself in the situation to be competitive. Challenge stress is actually good stress. So when we say that we don't want to be stressed or we want to eliminate all stressors out of our life, that's actually not necessarily a good thing, because it just challenges and stress is what is going to help you grow. It's going to want to keep pushing you to growth. So that's what the competition is. And the best competition is the one within yourself. And I haven't talked to Colleen about this one yet, but I'm going to use her as an example for this. Colleen sets goals on her daily cold calling. And what she does is, let's say she says, I'm going to set 2 appointments today. That's what my goal is. And I'm not stopping until I get it. And generally she definitely never stops until she gets it. But usually when she gets to kind of the end of her list, she kind of takes a moment, takes a breath, and says, okay, I'm getting one appointment within the next 2 phone calls. And every single time she's done that, she's gotten an appointment with the next 2 phone calls. She's challenging herself to get it done faster. So that's the competition within herself. And then the next day, she will actually challenge herself again and say, okay, today I'm getting 3. And then she'll go on and make her little challenges, and she calls them games within herself. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, is you want to challenge yourself. Because if you're challenging someone else and you're saying, I want to do what they're doing, I want to do it the way they're doing it, it's not competition anymore. Now it's comparing. And that's where it becomes a little bit different. And that's where it becomes, a little bit not within yourself. So you need to be competing with yourself. It's okay if you're putting yourself in a competitive arena where you're saying, hey, Colleen, you want to get 2 appointments. Okay, I'm going to get 3. But that's great. You have to be accepting of the fact that if she gets 3 appointments, it's a congratulations. Well done. You've reached your goal. I've reached my goal. And how you get it done is irrelevant. You're only competing with yourself at the end of the day to better your business, better yourself. So that's what we're talking about, the difference between competing and comparing. All right. The other question is, what do you believe about your abilities? So this is there's not one person on the face of this earth that has 0 abilities. The difference is some don't know what their abilities are. Some don't know what their talents are. Some don't like the abilities they have and want someone else's ability. So the question you want to ask yourself here is, what are you born with? What are your natural abilities? What are something that people tell you over and over again, hey, you're really good at that, or show me how to do this. Can you help me along with this? So what are you really good at? What are your natural abilities? And then what you want to do next is get really good at what you are good at. So focus on your strengths, get really good and become an expert at it. And then what you want to do is, by working hard through it, you're going to bring the skills into the area of your ability. The example that I have here is, for me, my natural abilities have kind of always been, I have a creative and sound business mind. I see a lot of angles and opportunities, and that is not just in business. Throughout my soccer playing career, that's exactly what I was well known for, is I set up goals. I was never a top goal scorer or a top assister. I would be the one that just created the opportunity, saw the lanes, and would make that pass or whatever. And it just kind of came semi-natural to me. I didn't even know I was doing it at the time. It's not until actually I got into business that I realized how well I saw that field. So that's just always kind of come natural to me. And then also something that I didn't know came natural to me was leadership. So every club or every job I've had, I've ended up getting a leadership role without even seeking it. Something about my presence or personality, people just enjoy apparently, and they want to see me in higher roles. So whether it's the president of Rotary Club or whatnot, I've just kind of had a natural leadership ability. So those are some things that, when you're looking into yourself, have confidence in those abilities, accept those abilities, and then try to move forward and, kind of extort those abilities to be able to help you build your business. Larry Bird, who is a good, Hall of Fame Boston Celtics player, his quote was, "A winner is someone who recognizes his God-given talents, works his tail off to develop them into skills, and uses his skills to accomplish his goals." So that's kind of tying all this whole, what do you believe about your abilities, into one quote. Hard work is always going to outperform just talent, but talent mixed with the hard work is going to outperform everything. So if you have just the talent, but you're not putting in the work, it's wasted talent. That's where you get that term from. If you have the talent and you're putting in the hard work, you're going to be at the top of your game and you're going to get to whatever level you want to get to. Authenticity, we talk about it all the time. You want to lean into your natural abilities. You want to find it by trying things out. So don't be afraid to fail. And sometimes it's learning by failing. So Zig Ziglar said, failure is an event, not a person. So you're not failing. You just had a failed part of whatever you were trying at that time. So you're not a failure as a person. You just had one failure and you're learning from it. And also you need to have faith in your own abilities. So as I just said, with the ones that, I've come across with myself when I was thinking about this slide and kind of, doing my own mindset about it. That's when, I've got faith in those aspects of my career. All right. What do you believe about your future? So power of testimony. And I'll just go down to the road example. This is all based off brain science. And this is what we talk a lot about exit in your mindset trainings and whatnot. So the power of testimony. So your brain connections, think of it as an old dusty road with overgrown weeds and potholes, because it just hasn't been used enough. You haven't had that positive reinforcement. You haven't had, whatever, you're putting into your brain, just that connection hasn't kind of cleared out yet. So it's an old dusty road, got a lot of potholes. So what you can do is you start setting goals, and that's like starting to weed the road. So you want to take the weeds out, you want to kind of clear up the dust. And then what you're going to do is when you read, you listen to podcasts, you watch YouTube videos on Brian Buffini, anything of that nature. Now you're starting to repave that road. Now you're starting to set down new connection points where you can kind of get thoughts free flowing back and forth, and it's an easy transition. And then when you start affirming the above statements of what you can do and what you do really well and all those good things, now you're starting to paint the road. Now it's starting to open up, and now you have a high-speed freeway. So those are kind of the steps to kind of clear out the connections and reset your mind so that you can kind of get to that next level. And so here's the action plan for the week. So spend 30 minutes to 1 hour for the next 7 days. So 1 hour a day for the next 7, just discovering yourself. Lock off all distractions, and you want to write down some of these things. You want to write down the past accomplishments you are proud of. And the reason you want to do that is because when you kind of get into a rut, you can just think of hey, I want to, I've done it again, or I've done it once, I can do it again. So that's a good kind of mindset reset for you. I did it once before, I can do it again. And these past accomplishments is going to help reaffirm the fact that you can do it. It can be anything. It can be small, it can be large, it can be from a long time ago, it can be from last week. Set your goals for the next 30 days, the next 60 days, and the next 90 days. It can be business and personal. It can just be business if that's what you want to solely focus on right now. But whatever it is, you want to write it down and you want to start getting it ingrained in your brain. And then you want to write down your natural abilities. What are you good at? What have multiple people told you you're good at? And it doesn't have to be business related because you're just looking for traits. And how can those abilities be used to grow your career? So that's the 3 action plans that you want to do for this week. and kind of get your mindset ready and change kind of the outlook to get some of that self-esteem up. Everyone has self-esteem problems. Everyone has some things that they need to work on as far as self-confidence goes, and getting kind of over the humps of negativity and kind of deleting that and moving forward. So one other, let's see. So that is what I have for you guys today. Is there any questions on it? Does anyone have any feedback? Colleen, do you have anything to add?
I just like one of that you can control 3 things. You can control your attitude, your effort, and your actions. So if you kind of are hesitant going into things, well, why are you hesitant? Outside of like your mindset, maybe you don't know the process. Maybe you don't know that contract. Maybe you haven't practiced it. So it's like, how can you maximize that? You can't just wing things in life. You can wing some things, but if there's some things that you can really practice, then do that, because it really will help with your confidence. And also your mind can't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. So if you really think of a scenario through ahead of time, your mind doesn't know if you actually did it or not. So why not practice it ahead of time, think of it ahead of time in a favorable way, like Rob said, and you really will start to believe it, and it'll start to happen ahead of time. It's silly, but what I write down at night is 10 wins. So whether it be so silly, like it's like my son like gave me a kiss before he went to school today. Like that's a win. Like if you write down like all these wins, it was really cute. He like ran to the fence and was like, it's just so sweet. And it's just, you're just looking at that and you're focusing on all the positive things that have happened in your day. And it's gonna change your whole everything, your whole being. You're just gonna see life as just more positive, and that's gonna open up to more rewarding conversations with people, leading to more opportunities. But that's from Think and Grow Rich. He writes Napoleon Hill wrote down 10 things every day that was positive. It's guy's a genius. But so I always say just definitely try these action plans that Rob put in place, and you'll see a difference.
For sure. The last 2 things is also when you're doing the identifying of, I did it before, I can do it again. And then also if they can do it, I can do it. So, those are 2 common phrases in the world of business. If they can do it, I can do it. So whatever, but you want to compare like to like for myself, I'm not comparing myself to the Kenyan that just won the Boston Marathon. If I want to lose weight or if I want to get in shape, I'm going to identify with the fat guy that just finished the marathon. He could have come in dead last, doesn't matter, but he finished. And that's the key. So you don't want to identify with, something that you're not, or, something that's kind of a lot different. You want to identify with someone that's similar to you. So that is that one. But yeah, so that's kind of our slide presentation today. If you guys have any questions, I'll hang out as always and answer them. Otherwise, have a great week and go get them.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. It was an awesome. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, guys.